hello. How is everybody doing today? Um, Let me
A
show
year ago,
you.
Sean Combs stood in Times Square and was handed a key to New York City. Today, he's been indicted and will face justice in the Southern District of New York.
One of the most famous names in the hip hop world is now facing 3 charges in federal court. Many people have come forward in recent months to accuse Sean Diddy Combs of abuse, sex trafficking, drug possession, and more. But now the federal government is getting involved and promising to bring down the rap mogul's alleged criminal empire. Welcome to Sidebar, presented by Law and Crime. I'm Jesse Weber.
His office is determined to investigate and prosecute anyone who engages in sex trafficking, no matter how powerful or wealthy or famous you may be. No one should doubt our commitment on that.
Talk about a day in the legal and crime world. And today, it all centers around Sean Diddy Combs and all of these details and filings in his new criminal case. And we're going to break it down for you right now, give you everything you need to know. So the Southern District of New York is promising justice. For instance, the defendant provided controlled substances, including ketamine, ecstasy, GHB, to female victims so that they could and would continue to engage in freak-offs despite fatigue, physical and emotional exhaustion, and pain. Additionally, both during freak-offs and separate from freak-offs, the defendant subjected female victims to physical, emotional, and verbal abuse in part to cause them to engage in freak-offs. The defendant hit, kicked, threw objects at, and dragged female victims, sometimes by their hair. At least a dozen witnesses will confirm that they personally observed the defendant's violence towards women and or the injuries sustained by women at the defendant's hand. Now, back to that 2016 video that I mentioned of Combs allegedly attacking Cassandra Ventura out in LA. They say in this letter, prosecution, they claim that Combs used money and influence to try to keep that video from getting out. Quote, when a member of hotel security staff intervened, the defendant attempted to offer their hotel security officer a stack of cash to ensure his silence. After the security guard refused the defendant's bribe, and after coordination between the defendant and his employees, the defendant's staff contacted other members of hotel security. Within days of the incident, the surveillance video disappeared from the hotel's server. Now, this is the exact allegations put forward by Cassandra Ventura, which makes you wonder, is she one of the cooperating witnesses with the government? You have to believe so. And clearly, there is something to be said that the prosecutors here are believing the account of Ventura and possibly these other alleged victims. It's not just them filing a lawsuit against Sean Combs. They are believing these allegations to substantiate criminal charges. That's big. Now, the letter also references another alleged incident that was first revealed in Ventura's lawsuit last fall when she alleged that Combs set fire to fellow recording artist Kid Cudi's car when he seemed to show interest in Ventura. According to the filing, quote, in the early morning hours of December 22nd, 2011, the defendant and a co-conspirator kidnapped an individual at gunpoint to facilitate breaking into and entering the residence of individual one. Multiple witnesses would testify at trial to the events surrounding the kidnapping and break-in, the latter of which is corroborated by police reports and other records. Approximately 2 weeks later, the defendant's co-conspirator set fire to individual one's vehicle by slicing open the car's convertible top and dropping a Molotov cocktail inside the interior. Police and fire department reports extensively document the arson and conclude that the fire was intentionally set. Multiple witnesses would also testify to the defendant bragging about his role in destroying individual one's car. So again, prosecutors really taking Cassandra Ventura's allegations as true. And again, while he's not specifically charged with arson, that is a part of the racketeering charge. Goes on, the prosecution, they raised concerns about Combs' access to weapons as well, especially firearms. The letter includes photographs of weapons found in Combs' homes. Again, this is all the reason why they believe he should be denied bail. In March of 2024, during searches of the defendant's residences in Miami, Florida, and Los Angeles, California, law enforcement seized firearms and ammunition, including 3 AR-15s, each with defaced serial numbers, as well as a large capacity drum magazine. As pictured in a close-up image, the serial number of one of the AR-15s is visibly bored through and obscured. By the way, that in and of itself is a federal crime. We did an episode about the recent potential shooting of former President Donald Trump. That individual is charged with that crime. The filing goes on to state, quote, 2 of the 3 defaced AR-15s were found in the defendant's Miami bedroom closet, stored broken down in parts, along with magazines that were loaded with ammunition. In addition, 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored
Hey,
in
Renegade, how are
from the
you?
defendant's residences. Now, from there, in this bail letter, Combs is also accused of trying to influence witnesses. Prosecutors state, quote, specifically following the November 2023 lawsuit, the defendant and intermediaries acting on his behalf reached out to potential victims and witnesses to the alleged conduct, including individuals he did not speak to regularly and had not spoken to in years, to attempt to feed those victims and witnesses false narratives about the defendant's criminal conduct. For example, on or about November 19, 2023, just 3 days after the filing of the lawsuit described above, this is the Cassandra Ventura one, the defendant made multiple calls to another victim of his sexual abuse and recorded certain of those calls under the cell phone, using the cell phone of a co-conspirator. During the calls, the defendant repeatedly asked for the victim's support and friendship and attempted that this is a strong case based on the allegations put forward.
Yeah, this is one of the strongest sex trafficking cases that I've ever seen. While the indictment was not as detailed as I was expected, and there were some allegations that I suspected might be made that were not, such as underage victims or perhaps murder
Yeah,
or
he is
things like that.
sick.
This was focused enough.
Or
and
you're
had enough
sick,
meat
or you
that
talking
I feel
about
like it'll be
him
very
being
difficult,
sick.
I feel like, to sort of get out of these allegations. It seems like they've interviewed a number of witnesses. I think they said at least 50 victims and witnesses that have already been sort of interviewed and have agreed to cooperate in this. And I'm sure that there may be more, and they're even looking for more. So I think that they feel pretty strongly that they've put together a strong package, and I think they're pretty confident.
Do you agree the way he was arrested? This became a big issue yesterday. He came to New York, was at the Park Hyatt. He and his attorneys knew he was going to be hit with charges. In fact, his attorney said to the media before the indictment was unsealed, we anticipate racketeering. it's one thing for somebody to sue somebody else, right? We have a lower standard. They shouldn't file frivolous lawsuits, but you have to, filing a civil lawsuit is very different.
Well, to do that, it takes a lot of moving parts because he's going to have to get pilots that are going to participate in that conspiracy to flee. The pilots also have to file a flight plan. They also have to pick a country to go to that's going to be friendly to his issues. That's not going to extradite him. And he also, when that plan is filed, then he has to go through a process with Customs and Border Protection in terms of being able to go to the next country. So I'm sure he had considered that, and I'm sure he took the advice of his lawyers and decided not to do that, because if he had fled, then this would have amplified, and then the full force of the United States government would have come down on tracking him down and bringing him back.
Do you think they were tracking him, though? Like, not necessarily like they had a surveillance team watching him at all times, but do you think investigators, do you think federal authorities kind of knew what he was doing?
Well, I think based upon the number of people who have come forward in terms of the indictment, I think they had people that were likely reporting on him, reporting on his actions and his movements, as well as the fact that they put so many resources into this. It would be reasonable for them to be watching his phones, watching his computer activity, and frankly having more people around him who are
I'm only going to be on here for 30 minutes.
I want to go into some of the evidence now and talk about what could be the strongest pieces. And to be clear, it's not entirely evident what the prosecution has, what people said to them, what the physical evidence is, what the digital evidence is. But let's go through it. So the prosecution says that many of the accusations against Combs can be corroborated by witnesses. And this is mentioned several times in the prosecution's letter to Judge Robin Tarnowski, where they were arguing against bail. For example, on page 2 of that letter, it says, quote, at least a dozen witnesses will confirm that they personally observed the defendant's violence towards women and or the injury sustained by women at the defendant's hand. Then on page
that the defense is going to say that he did not do this, right? That this wasn't an organized crime syndicate that the prosecutors are accusing him of. This is a group of friends having a sex party. Yeah, it's not what you want to necessarily hear about. No one really possibly, likes it, but it is what it is. People like Diddy, people wanted to be around him, and they allow themselves to be sort of manipulated sometimes into perhaps doing things that sound unsafe.
Why would you say that? I go to the party and leave early. I'm sorry. Yeah. I don't know what goes on after hours, but
he wasn't trying to find out.
I wasn't trying to find out.
Now, to be clear, these statements from Kutcher, James, Uncle Luke, they were before this criminal indictment, and some even before these allegations of Combs even surfaced. And we have no indication or evidence that they knew anything that's being alleged or in any way a part of this case whatsoever. I just want to be clear about that. So as Combs currently sits behind bars after being denied bail twice, and as this case and investigation continue, I want to talk about this. So for that, I want to bring on
give you
Patterson, attorney out of
some
Los
more
Angeles,
medicine?
litigation attorney out of Los Angeles. I like to think of her as our...
Did they give you your medicine? The 5-day medication to get rid of it?
resident hip-hop expert. She knows so much about this, a hip-hop trial expert, I should say. Knows the ins and outs, has been following a lot of these cases recently. Afi, thank you so much for coming on. It's good to see you. As I said, it's been a minute since we've had a chance to talk. I'm going to ask you the question I've asked every single person I've asked this week. Your reaction to the arrest and indictment of Sean Combs. Is it what you expected?
I said this back in November. Yes, absolutely, it's what I expected. I think that he was indicted a long time ago, and the indictment was held. I think they've had this, they've had this for a minute. The question is, that's everybody's asking right now is, are there going to be other people? But what we've seen right now is just one person. When
oh,
Rico,
wow.
they think, of course,
that's right. You did tell me that.
All you need with Rico is one person, 2 acts over a 10-year period. It's super easy to get a Rico charge, and super easy, of course, to get an indictment. So it's absolutely what I expected. And I also expect a conviction, a swift one.
But in the indictment, they mention not 1 or 2 people. They mention a network. They're mentioning a lot of people who helped be a part of this or facilitated this. So is there a feeling right now? And I guess the question could be, when you hear these statements being made by prosecutors in their filings and the United States attorney in this press conference, the argument is, and you correct me if I'm wrong, is this a siren out to everybody? Listen, he just got indicted. You come to us before we come to you. Do you get that sense?
No, I think that when you put the full weight of the U.S. Attorney's Office behind any statement, it's intimidating. I think that it was more like, you'll be in trouble if you don't respond favorably to us. And we see that in that only 1 person was charged. Only Puppy was charged in this Rico issue. And I think more than anything, they want people to participate. They want people to willingly provide information. They don't want to have to bring down the full weight of the office and use unnecessary resources. Come forward if you have information. If we know who you are and where you are, and we come to talk to you, play nice with us, and nothing will happen. That's what I got from that.
Why do you think?
Internationally. During freak-offs, Combs distributed a variety of controlled substances to victims, in part to keep the victims obedient and compliant. Sometimes, unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos he filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. After freak-offs, Combs and the victims typically received IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion. Ammunition, I know that they mentioned a drum magazine as well. Where are those stored now? Where does all of that go?
An evidence buffer of some sort, I'm assuming, to the FBI. The FBI, their local office, will have an evidence of what was done to them. So I'll be interested to see if more charges come out.
Only Response has been sharing this unaired snippet from a February podcast episode. Nick asking fans in the
and charges like this, which are very sensitive because you have multiple victims, 50, 60 victims at least, and you possibly have other co-defendants as well, or at least other individuals who are potentially testifying.
decades-long criminal enterprise. His arrest coming roughly 6 months after federal agents raided his 2 mansions and found evidence of, quote, freak-offs, drug-fueled sex parties that lasted days, where individuals would engage in lewd acts against their will. They found narcotics, ketamine, and ecstasy, more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil, ammo, weapons, including AR-15s with defaced serial numbers. Diddy now sits in jail after 2 unsuccessful bail requests. No trial date has been set as of yet. Here now to talk more about all of this is David Gelman, former prosecutor turned criminal defense attorney. David, great to see you. So according to these court documents, Diddy allegedly orchestrated this enterprise for decades. My question to you, David, is if these claims are in fact true, how do you think he could have evaded justice for so long?
It's a great question.
I first want to get into Nicki revealing that people were trying to pay her off to not speak about the bad business deal that she had with Jay-Z. Named Fathom got the juice. He said that Nicki was trying to duck his questions, and she said
his office further that gang. Similar idea here. Okay. Now also, as you're going to see here, in a racketeering case, there are numerous predicate crimes. These are underlying crimes that Combs is not specifically charged with, like arson or kidnapping or forced labor, but they are crimes under the umbrella of the larger criminal enterprise. By the way, I should tell you, the racketeering allegations that we see in this indictment are very consistent with the allegations put forward by Rodney Little Rod Jones. Combs, there were minors at these parties, or Combs that Combs was allegedly involved in. 6 legally purchased guns with serial numbers. So the U.S. attorney here, yesterday, he came to New York, was at the Park Hyatt. On page 2 of that letter, it says, quote, at least a dozen witnesses will
enhancements that we saw on what they're seeking as far as
members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal
of the U.S. Attorney's Office behind any
statement. But it's also been interesting to see the people who have been signed.
That was the former, that they were probably able to
that go.
An evidence blocker of some sort.
We sitting back, praying and hoping for the best, but then at the same time.
And found evidence of, quote, freak-offs, drug-fueled sex parties that lasted days, where individuals would engage in lewd acts against their will. They found narcotics, ketamine, and ecstasy.
We're going to come into this eventually because if you look at the indictment, it said.
We know it. So I'm just asking your opinion on that. Do you agree with that statement? Do you feel like, some people being shown in different light, is that ruining the way you're going to see hip hop going forward, like the culture?
I don't think that it has anything to do with hip hop. What are we talking about here, really?
Well, I mean, I don't want to just go straight to it, but everything with Diddy, people saying it's kind of the end of hip hop at that era. Okay.
It has nothing to do with hip hop at all. So I don't see
what they have right now. That doesn't mean this is finished by any means.
Considering his fame, considering the fact that this allegedly went on for decades, what do you believe, David, ultimately the consequences could be in this case?
Kelly, I would venture to guess had Diddy
to silence her, so she didn't take it. Not only that, she kind of hinted about her documentary for going in, but I am a little concerned.
Many of the accusations against Combs can be corroborated by witnesses, and this is mentioned several times. Compliant, sometimes unbeknownst to the victims, Combs kept videos. He filmed of victims engaging in sex acts with commercial sex workers. Goes on to say that members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs. And that has become the question. Could that they already have everybody that they need? They are going to
R-15 guns, ammunition, and a large capacity drum magazine.
They're really going to move forward with those. I think they're going to go with much some of the individuals who facilitated this.
Following Diddy's indictment on Monday, reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. For more Diddy content,
defense has taken some pretty significant hits recently. You outlined a few. Given your background in criminal defense, how do you think his attorneys are going to approach this case overall?
But these are just my guesses. She said, dear short and stout D, who is obviously Steve Stout, Laffy Taffy Alien. I don't know. Is she talking about Jay-Z because he has a funny laugh? Like, that's how he laughs. Also, she said D breath, and this could have been about Elia.
So the main idea here, the 10th. Other evidence that was collected during the course of the raids and saying that matches up to their story. I imagine the fact that just yourself, you need others. Someone needs to be. But in the indictment, they mentioned not 1 or 2 people.
In a freak off, to what extent did you participate in it? What?
The hotel rooms after the freak off to try.
They tore up couch cushions. That's why they made holes in walls. They were looking for flash drives, tiny devices where these things were stored. And so I think their indictments.
Knowing the story, knowing the right
enterprise for decades. My question to you, David, is if these claims are in fact.
Whenever Jay-Z is in a pickle, he always has a few mouthpieces that speak on his behalf. 2 of those people are Steve Stout and Elliot Wilson. They also will go against Jay's ops as well. In fact, Dame Dash implied that Jay-Z was sending people like Steve Stout to come at him.
I don't know why everybody wants to send certain people. There's certain
her front door, and it's just not a good look. But I don't know. Do y'all believe this tea that Jay-Z
different crimes? They're trying to say this wasn't done in an individual capacity, but it was done to further that gang. Similar whole financial support and by other coercive means, including tracking guns with serial numbers, some of which were stored in gun safes, were recovered from the defense.
Tried to track him down in a foreign country would be an absolute nightmare.
By the way, I was talking to prosecutors who are believing the accounts of these accusers, at the very least, it seems, Sandra Ventura, and filing criminal charges based on those accounts. So it seems that authorities are believing what's being told, and they have the corroboration. It's not just the accounts of these people, but other evidence to back it up. Should the cause victims the alleged head of this organization, and that we might see other people indicted, or do you think?
Look at what exactly the feds collected from Diddy's home and track down who provided these.
On video, right? A lot of this is on video, and I would be interested to see if other
praying and hoping for the best, but then at the same
the evidence is insurmountable against him. And then all these victims are going to go on the stand and they're going to corroborate everything that's in the indictment and that's in the evidence. So I don't think he's going to have really much.
Like, Steve is talking about everything but his friend Diddy. I mean, what's going on with that? I mean, he
details and filings in his new criminal case, and we're going to break it down for you. Physical exertion and drug use. As of December 22nd, 2011.
The search warrant occurred, and I was asked, okay, why didn't they?
Of baby oil and lubricant. Wow, you talk about physical charges. That's big. Now, the letter also references another alleged incident that was first revealed in Ventura's lawsuit last fall when she alleged that Combs set fire to fellow recording artist Kid Cudi's car.
That is designed to take cases such as these.
Amplified and then in full force of the United States.
But other evidence to back it up. Now, again, their stories might be.
No one really possibly, likes it.
They're just.
All right. How is everybody doing today? I was just running through it. A Street Poet, how you doing? Thank you for coming through. No, it's not pre-recorded. I was just going through a video real quick without getting a copyright. But no, it's not pre-recorded. Hold on one second. I have a video that I wanted to show you guys. But I got so many. Hold on. I'm gonna let y'all see this one. This one's about Mary J. Blige, which I did not know about. So this one's about Mary J. Blige, okay, y'all? Hey, Sniper, what's going on? This one's about Mary J. Blige. I'm just going to be on here for about 30 minutes. I just want to kind of scan through something for y'all. Skim through it, not scan, skim. This one's 3 minutes and 55
Mary J.
minutes.
Blige is allegedly on a freak-off tape with Diddy. It's been going around all over TikTok that Mary J. Blige is in a freak-off tape with Diddy, and she's saying that this was her rite of passage.
And a lot of people have always wondered about Mary J. Blige, and they feel like she is in on some shit because she has never opened her mouth, and she has been with Diddy since the very beginning. And there are a lot of photos on the internet with Mary J. Blige with Cassie, and as you can see during these photos, Cassie has visible bruises on her body. Now, all this information with Mary J. Blige allegedly being in a freak-off tape with Diddy instantly made me think of Danny Boy. Mary J. Blige slept with a 15-year-old Danny Boy when she was 24 years old, and Danny Boy admitted that Mary J. Blige would fly him out to New York multiple different times.
I'm 15, 16 years old, and she flying me in to see her.
Slept with a 15-year-old
Look,
Danny
they
Boy
talking about, she talking about these bruises right here.
that Mary J. Blige would fly him out to New York multiple different times.
I'm 15, 16 years old, and she flying me in to see her. And you know what it is when a girl back up on you, you young and shit. I'm trying to show her that. And she ain't phasing me. I'm hard as goddamn. She backing up against me. This Mary J. Blige. And quite naturally, I mean, I don't even know if you're supposed to say that. You're supposed to say you had some people on camera. If I had an opportunity to go out to New York and visit her a couple more times.
And then after all this information started coming out that Mary J. Blige was allegedly in this freak-off tape with Diddy, I started thinking about the time that Danny Boy said when he was a teenager, he had relationships with men that were in the closet that were singers and producers in the industry. And Danny Boy was asked when he said this, was this something
Yes,
that
he
Death Row?
does.
Because at the time he was with Death Row, and he said, hell no, this is something that he knew to keep about himself in the closet because you could never let Suge find out about this, and it was nobody like that inside Death Row. So this really has me thinking, did Mary J. Blige and Diddy do a freak-off with Danny Boy? Is this who Danny Boy is talking about? I mean, he admitted to sleeping with Mary J. Blige when he was 15 years old and said that Mary J. Blige flew to New York multiple different times, and said at the same time during his teenage years, which would be 15, 16, 17 years old, he was having relationships with men who were in the closet and they were acting like they were straight. And in this interview clip that I'm about to show you of Danny Boy, he also explained how these people have never came out of the closet. You cannot tell me that this man was not talking about Diddy. Like, this is some crazy shit. I thought it was bad enough that Mary J. Blige messed with a 15-year-old Danny Boy, but now the connections are starting to fall in line. But I'm going to go ahead and roll you guys this clip of Danny Boy explaining how he was having relationships with people in the industry who were basically in the closet and never told the truth about themselves. And you guys let me know, what do you guys think? Do you guys think that Danny Boy was somebody that was involved in these freak-offs as a kid?
In my teen years, I did some things with, between me and the homies, and it would be considered gay. But those guys are straight guys now, and in relationships, so they say. I mean, but they're in relationships now, so I'm the only one that kind of came out.
Was some of these individuals that you was messing around with, around that time when you was on death row, was they in the industry?
Yeah. I'm just gonna say, was they on death row? Yeah, they was in the industry. Who else was I hanging around? I was just hanging around with people around the neighborhoods.
Was they on death row?
Nah, look at them though. I mean, no offense, but nah. No, yuck. I don't know. Like, they went with me. No, it wasn't a thing. It wasn't like an open thing that even then. Even me having the feelings, it was suppressed because that was a thing that I knew not to take around Suge.
Oh, and I don't know if you guys seen this video yet. This is P. Diddy getting arrested. Hold on, let me show you this one. This is the P. Diddy arrest video.
New developments in a high-profile case against mogul and music producer Sean Diddy Combs. We're getting our first look at Combs being arrested Monday evening at a New York City hotel. This footage was obtained by TMZ. You'll see him walk in with his entourage or a team of Homeland Security officers swoop in opposite of him and take Combs in. We see no resistance as Combs cooperates and goes with authorities. Then moments later, they
got him in handcuffs.
His hands behind his back.
Handcuffed.
Now, this is a statement from Combs' spokesperson speaking to his state of mind. Right now, it says, Mr. Combs is strong, healthy, and focused on his defense. He's committed to fighting this case and has full confidence in both his legal team and the truth. On Wednesday, a second judge denied his bond appeal after the first judge rejected his bail offer of $50 million. The judge cited Combs' characteristics and history as why there were no conditions that she felt she could impose that would assure that he would return to court or that he wouldn't tamper with evidence or witnesses. Now, Combs was indicted on sex trafficking and racketeering charges earlier this week. And according to sources in the courtroom, Combs looked at his three sons, his sister and his brother-in-law in the gallery, put his hand over his heart as he was led out of the courtroom. Combs' arrest comes roughly 6 months after federal authorities simultaneously raided his mansions in LA and Miami. Combs has faced a wave of lawsuits accusing him of sexual assault, among other things. All right, let's bring back in our guests still with us. Criminal defense attorneys Marsha Minot and Marie Pineda with us as well. Marie, I'll start with you. First and foremost, as far as that arrest is concerned, I do want to say that his attorneys, according to his attorneys, he returned to New York. He was supposed to turn himself in, but Homeland Security decided to arrest him in a very public way. I think that in and of itself tells you where they stand in this case. That's not, I don't want to say it's unusual, but once an attorney usually says, I'm bringing my guy in, usually that's an agreement, then you allow the person to come in. Arresting him sends a message.
It does send a message, and I'm not choosing sides at this point, but I feel like he's being treated unfair. Bail is to ensure the person is coming back. They have his passport. They could set any conditions they want. He could be on house arrest.
Oh,
he
whatever.
could have to pay for the security that's provided by the government. He has not been convicted of a crime yet, but
it wasn't her daughter. That's why she could say that.
And I think they're punishing him because of who he is. And I think denying him bail is not right. It's not just, because bail is just for that, to make sure you'll come back. He's not a threat to the community. He didn't kill anyone. And even if they think he's going to threaten people, they could even have a condition that he has no phone, no computers, no nothing. To deny him bail is unjust. It is.
I don't know, Maria, I'm going to have to disagree with you. Marsha, I want to get you to ring in on this. My thoughts are that he has a history of messing with witnesses and all kinds of intimidation of folks. And he doesn't necessarily have to do it himself. And certainly from wherever he is, he could instruct people on what to do and how to do it. I guess he could do it from jail as well. But some of those other conditions you mentioned, Maria, I also think, the system has to treat us all equally. Just because he has money and can pay for certain things, I don't think that should make a difference as well. Marsha, what do you think?
Exactly. I agree.
I don't think it should make a difference, but we do live in a society where it's guilty as charged now. You are now forced to prove your innocence. It's only theory when people say to you, the burden is on the state and we have to prove your guilt beyond a reasonable doubt. All we need these days is an allegation. So I do believe that there's a level of celebrity associated with this. I've had clients that I've turned in on numerous occasions, but anytime law enforcement wants to showboat, they refuse to allow me to turn my client in. I think he could have turned himself in. There would not have been any surveillance footage associated with what's going on. And I think he could be conditions could be put on him to entitle him to bail. Sometimes you have to be careful, Michael, that you're not treating him worse just because he's a celebrity.
Yeah, fair enough. And you know, he was acting in good faith. He had turned over, as you said, Marie, his passports. He was selling his private plane to make sure he came from Florida to New York. All those things in favor of him saying, hey, I'm going to do what you guys ask, because again, he believes that he has, as his attorney said, full confidence in his defense. What would be a defense in a case like this? Now, remember, and I want to talk about this as well, this is one of those enterprise cases where there's this trafficking conspiracy or racketeering conspiracy going on.
Whatever. You know what? I think his defense should be that everybody's doing a money grab. Everyone who was involved in those freak fests, they're adults who got on a plane. Nobody was being trafficked. Everybody was put on a plane. They came willingly because they just were fans. Maybe they were perverts and they liked threesomes and body oil and whatever. But it was consensual, wacky, sex between everyone. There was no trafficking here. They came on their own. And whoever is now saying, oh, I was trafficked, it's a money grab. I would stick to that type of theory.
Marsha, do you agree? I mean, looking at this particular case, I would imagine based on the lawsuits, there are going to be people coming in testifying that they were coerced or forced to do these things, or quote unquote trafficked across state lines to do these kinds of things, which is what got the feds involved in the first place. But do you think, and I think that's a legitimate concern, this idea that folks knew what they were getting into. In most cases, I think there was one 17-year-old girl making accusations. They're adults acting in ways that, consenting adults decide to act, whatever that is. Sex parties in and of themselves aren't illegal.
I agree. There's a victim. I always have a saying, there's a difference between a victim and a volunteer. If you are an adult volunteer in circumstances and you have buyer's remorse because you made bad decisions, I don't think you should be able to come back and say, okay, now compensate me for my bad conduct. However, if Puff Daddy has video footage at his home where he's literally restraining any females, or he has males that are coming into the room, and any of those footage has audio associated with the women refusing or not wanting to participate in sex acts, he's going to have a problem with that type of evidence. And according to the prosecution, they think that's what they have. Whether or not they'll be able to prove it,
whatever.
Yeah, I think that's exactly what they have. And quickly, I want to ask you, Marie, about the use of these racketeering statutes. Again, we see it again. Combs relied on employees, resources, and influence of his multifaceted businesses to bring people together and attempted to engage in, among other crimes, sex trafficking, forced labor, kidnapping, et cetera, et cetera. The use of these statutes being applied to these situations, I find it difficult. Again, for conspiracy, for racketeering, that's life in prison.
They would probably feel differently if it was their daughter. Like, come along.
I think it's a lot. And again, I would argue, if I was his lawyer, consenting adults getting on a plane and having sex in hotels is not trafficking anyone. That's what I would say. But this whole RICO thing, they're taking it there too far.
Yeah, they're catching everyone in that net. And I thought that was the intent of the racketeering laws. But I feel like at some point it becomes a little bit, perhaps maybe even unconstitutional.
Hold on. That's a doggone shame. Oh, this is the other one I wanted to share with you guys. P. Diddy patent, well, that's what they're saying. Justin Bieber. All right, let me see if I can make it bigger. What's he patting him down for, though?
Okay, Eunice.
What's he patting him down for? Okay, what's up?
Security wise, let's talk about this real quick. And I don't. And for anybody who goes up, can you turn your music down just a little bit?
Sure. Give me a second. All right, there you go. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay, let me
So-
take you from behind bars.
Salute to the chat. Salute to you, Miss You New.
What up? What
Let's
up?
talk about this for a second.
Okay. Let's
You
go.
keep saying that it would be different if it was their daughters.
Yeah.
So this is the question I have. How do we know for sure that Diddy or one of the paid for her ticket to get there? Or did she pay for it herself?
Who you talking about, Cassie?
Whoever, whatever.
Okay, I don't know who paid for what, but he had these people on Uggs and doing things.
Okay.
Allegedly.
Okay.
Allegedly. I wasn't there. I'm going with they say.
There. You wasn't there. Now, you wasn't there, so how do you explain these folks taking, you think that he drugged them?
Yeah, he ugged him. Yes.
Are you positive about that?
That's what they're saying.
No, that
allegedly.
That's what they're saying.
That's what they're implying. He got denied bail. Uh-oh, what happened? Got quiet.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, so again, I'm not defending nobody, but I want people to actually think before they start making judgment.
Okay. So what do you think?
Just like the lady said, nobody forced these people to come to this party.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's on their own. That's on their own free will. Do you agree?
Not that I know of. No.
I mean, who? So he said, "You better bring your butt to this party. Get on an airplane, pay for your ticket, and come to this party right now." That's what he said.
I don't know how he got these people there. I just know that there was a thing where they had freak offs. So,
okay, so just like the lady said, is it a crime to have orgies?
I don't know. Is it? I have no idea. I don't know none of that.
If you can have swinger clubs all across the country, and that's basically saying you got to consent to do that, right?
So are you telling me you think he's innocent of all this stuff that everybody's saying? There's like more than one person accusing him of all this stuff.
Yeah, and who are these people that's accusing him?
And then you also look at the raid that they had at his house with the stuff that they found. Thousands of lubricants? Are you kidding me?
You go to her swingers club, they're gonna have all that stuff there too. I'm just saying, you got to look at it as a big picture and not what people are saying. Today, just like the lady said, he has to prove himself innocent now.
Yeah.
Right? He has to prove himself innocent. But everybody's throwing bones at him because of what people are saying. And just because somebody says something doesn't automatically makes it true.
But so you must have not seen my short video where he was being very aggressive with Cassie in front of everybody.
Okay.
You must have not. Wait a minute. Did you see the video in the hotel lot? I'm not in the lobby, but where the elevators are. Did you see how he threw her down and kicked her, stumped her, and then threw vase at her?
Okay, that's what we call abuse. That's domestic violence. He should be arrested for domestic violence.
Right. Can you say DV?
No, I'm gonna say domestic violence. That's what it's called.
You gonna stop playing with me?
No, you gonna stop playing with me.
You gotta stop saying certain things. You can't say certain things in here.
Why can't you say certain things? They say the same thing on YouTube all the time.
I have no idea.
Okay, well,
hey,
yeah.
Haley. Haley, how are you? No, we're not gonna free Diddy.
But y'all, what I'm saying is this right here. Stop making judgment until you hear the whole story. We haven't even heard his side of the story yet.
Well, he's already apologized for what he did to Cassie out of his own mouth.
So does that make him? Does that convict him for everything else?
I don't know what it convicts him for, but I know one thing. I'm not. I don't think it's far-fetched.
We may not never find out what his whole story neither.
You say RICO charge? Okay. You investigate that. You think you got that on good, but this allegations of ugging and graping people. All right, you're consensual.
It all depends on the evidence against him. They're not going to tell you everything about it. They're not going to tell you all the evidence they got until it goes to trial. And I'm with you. I mean, with everything that's been said about him, it sounds like he's guilty, but nobody's heard his side neither.
I mean, I could go around and say, "Hey, Renegade, he was drinking and driving. I saw him do it, and I was with him when he did it. And guess what? Are people going to believe me at that? They believe me at that particular point, but they have to prove that you actually did it, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm saying. We can't just go straight to judgment right off the bat.
Look at. They said that they've got like hundreds, if not thousands, of videotapes of these parties of what he was doing.
What? Or having video of him having sex?
No, there was video of him giving drugs out at some of these parties.
Drugs.
You can say the word drugs.
Are you sure about that?
You can say,
on other channels they say way worse than drugs, guns, whatever. And they're still up.
So he's giving out drugs. Okay, he can distribution of drugs. But hey, if he's giving it to somebody, and they're adults and they take the drugs, then how is he at fault for that? They took it. They're adults.
Yeah, I don't know.
On some of it, yes, I agree. But then on some of it, it was shown that he was giving it like to the females. And I mean, not just giving it to them, but administering.
Did they look like they were resisting?
Well, if they were all messed up, they're not going to resist.
So they took drugs beforehand. Is what you're saying?
I don't know how it is. All I know is that's what they said. That they've got videotape of him giving females and males drugs. I don't know how. They said some of it he was administering the drugs to them. Others that he was just giving it to them. So I don't know. It all depends on what the videos shows. And it must be bad because they're putting it all on the line.
Well, everybody at that party, since they use drugs, everybody at that party needs to go to jail too, don't you think?
Oh, there's going to be a lot more going too. It's not just going to be him.
Yeah, I think everybody that was at that party need to spend a little time for illegal use of drugs. You can't. I mean, again, these are.
And see, it all also depends on what state you in about the orgies and stuff. Because certain sexual things are against the law in certain states.
Yeah, like in certain states, anything other than missionary is considered a crime.
And also in other states, some states, BJs are against the law too.
Exactly. So I mean, golly, but you have to. But I mean. You showed up.
Sorry, you know.
Sorry for what?
You showed up to this party. You showed up to this party. You knew what was going on, and nobody came in there. Oh, I thought we was going to have a Pequeno party.
Have you seen some of the videos of some of the people that he was talking to when they were younger?
Have I seen any videos when you're talking to when they were younger?
Yeah, I can't think of the boy Bieber.
Justin Bieber.
Yeah,
I just showed a video.
Yeah, I just saw that too.
He looked scared to death. What's he going to do? Is he going to go run to his mom, tell his mom what's going on?
His mom is the one that sent him there.
Yeah. How do you know that his mom knew what was going on?
Yeah, but I'm saying she sent him. I'm not saying she knew what was going on.
The way that I gathered it, she sent him there because they were supposed to be making videos.
Music, right. Music.
Hey, and
not other videos.
Hey, and McCully. What's the dude's name? Kevin McCully. What's his name?
Yeah.
I know you're talking about from.
Yeah, he's also he also did this tour to Michael Jackson too. Never been proven. These scenarios. I mean, until he's proven guilty.
Yeah, there's all kinds of scenarios that you can make him look guilty or you can make him look innocent. Right now, unless he comes out and says what happened and says it was consensual and all like that.
Well, how about the situation why he's not given bail? First of all, he's
not giving bail because he's a flight risk.
No, that's not the only reason.
He's worth $400 million. He can
I know,
go
but that's
wherever he wants, whether he's got a passport or not.
Right. But that's not the only reason. The other reason is allegedly he has been harassing people, harassing victims and
yeah.
And
you can't say harassing.
Witnesses.
You can't say harassing.
Why not?
You gotta say as meant her.
I cannot. It's too late for this mess. It's too late for this.
I gotta pick on you every once in a while.
Mm-hmm.
Well, just like I said, everybody, you can't go off alone what the media says.
No,
we got to see actual facts.
No, you can't go with the media because sometimes the media they overinflate something. They make it look worse than what it really is.
Well, anyways, I got a busy day tomorrow. I will talk to y'all tomorrow.
Good luck, and I know you got this.
Thank you, ma'am.
You're welcome.
All right, so I'm gonna good night, chat. Good night, everybody, and stop stop putting people guilty before you know the whole story. You have to be proven guilty, but in this sense, he's had to be proven innocent. That's my words of the day. Bye.
Bye.
Yeah, I'm getting off too because I got a doctor appointment at 9, but I'm gonna still stay.
Yeah, I was about to get off too. I was supposed to only do 30 minutes, but y'all popped up. So appreciate you, and I hope you feel better. All right. Now this is the last video, and then I'm going to sleep, y'all.
In less than a year, P. Diddy went from beloved music icon to disgraced sexual predator, at least according to the charges from the feds. Right now, he's behind bars in New York, the same place where just last year, he was given a key to the city. It was a disturbing set of allegations that led to Diddy's arrest in the way of multiple civil suits brought by accusers. And in some of those suits, co-defendants are listed, and in others, celebrities. Could it be a time of reckoning for them too? We're taking a deep dive into all the celebrities listed in Diddy's civil lawsuits and whether they too could face federal charges. I'm Sierra Gillespie, and this is Law and Crime News. A groundbreaking case brought forth just this week when 54-year-old Sean Diddy Combs was arrested on September 15th. He now faces some pretty serious federal charges: racketeering conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion, and transportation to engage in prostitution. Diddy was indicted by a federal grand jury and is now being housed in Brooklyn at the Metropolitan Detention Center after he was twice denied bail. Diddy's attorneys say he was in New York for about a week before the arrest, anticipating the federal indictment. But he wasn't the only one who kind of saw this coming. After federal investigators raided 2 of Diddy's homes back in March, we kind of had an idea something was on the way. Just this week, we learned some of the items that investigators collected during those raids of Diddy's homes in both Miami and Los Angeles. According to the indictment against Diddy, investigators seized more than 1,000 bottles of baby oil and lubricants from his homes. The court doc states that these items were used in something referred to as freak-offs, which were elaborate and produced sex performances that Combs arranged, directed, masturbated during, and often electronically recorded. According to prosecutors, Diddy and his associates transported commercial sex workers over state lines and even internationally. Diddy then allegedly gave these sex workers and victims controlled substances, at times unbeknownst to the victims. Prosecutors say Diddy did this to keep the victims obedient and compliant. He then took videos of victims having sex with these sex workers, sometimes without their consent. After all this, both Diddy and the victims would receive IV fluids to recover from the physical exertion and drug use. Federal investigators say that during the raids of Diddy's homes, they collected some of these recordings showing the disturbing details of these freak-offs. And the feds had a heads up about these recordings, thanks to some of the civil lawsuits filed against Diddy, namely the one brought by Rodney Jones, also known as the producer Lil Rod. Lil Rod worked with Diddy on his Love album starting in 2022 and says he experienced months of abuse all at the hands of Diddy. In his lengthy civil suit, Lil Rod refers to these recordings saying, quote, Mr. Combs required Mr. Jones, that's Lil Rod, to record him constantly. Mr. Jones has secured hundreds of hours of footage and audio recordings of Mr. Combs, his staff, and his guests engaging in some serious illegal activity. Lil Rod's lawsuit also lays out some other pretty disturbing claims, like that Diddy sexually assaulted him and forced Lil Rod to have sex with a prostitute. But Lil Rod's lawsuit came out swinging in more ways than one. Not only did it shed light on the dark allegations against Diddy, but it dropped some high-profile celebrity names too. First, there's Academy Award-winning actor Cuba Gooding Jr. Lil Rod alleges Diddy was, quote, grooming him to pass him off to his friends. This fear became reality when Mr. Combs introduced Mr. Jones to Cuba Gooding Jr. while they were on Mr. Combs' yacht. The lawsuit includes pictures of this too, showing both Diddy with Cuba and then Cuba with his arms around Lil Rod. Court docs go on to say, quote, Cuba Gooding Jr. began touching, groping, and fondling Mr. Jones's legs, his upper inner thighs near his groin, and the small of his back near his buttocks and his shoulders. He rejected his advances, and Mr. Gooding Jr. did not stop until Mr. Jones forcibly pushed him away. Here's former prosecutor Melba Pearson.
In the last couple of years, there were allegations against him for sexual assault. So now we have those prior allegations, and now we see him tied to this case as allegedly trying to, assault a little lad, assault others.
Back in 2019, Cuba was booked on misdemeanor charges of forcible touching and sexual abuse after allegedly groping a woman in Times Square. By the next year, 3 women had come forward accusing him of non-consensual sexual touching. He eventually reached a plea deal with prosecutors that required 6 months of counseling but no jail time.
Wow.
Just this summer, he appeared on Dan Abrams Live, where he discussed those charges.
He pleaded guilty to a forcible touching misdemeanor in 2022, eventually led to a guilty plea of a lesser charge. A year later, you settled a federal civil lawsuit, 2 more civil misconduct lawsuits. Can you understand why some would say, don't want to cast this guy?
Sure, but I can also understand some people who come up to me in the street all the time and yell, show me the money, and say, hang in there, and I see what you're going through. You make movies for an audience of people, right? So right now, I'm making a movie for faith-based people who are excited to renew our hope in humanity, especially the times we're in, dealing with politics and the world issues that are going on. So that's where I am now.
And have you expressed regret, sorrow, apologies for what happened previously?
Everything that happens in my life is for a reason. I believe that. And if I continue to walk on my path, whatever that is, I know at the end result, it'll be to make me stronger, to be a better person, to be a better father, and right now that's the moment I'm in.
Back to Melba. She says it's possible that charges could be brought against the actor.
I am getting the feeling where there's smoke, there's fire, right? Because now we have 2 different instances where you're accused of the same type of behavior, years apart. I think there's something there. And I don't know that Cuba Gooding Jr. is going to escape from that one, because you already saw definitely people moving away from him within Hollywood circles and other circles once those first sexual assault allegations came out. So at this point, I don't think he's going to get away with it a second time.
Is it possible that he could face charges based on these allegations that were brought forward by Lil Rod?
It is possible as well. Again, we've got the statute of limitations issue to deal with. So depending on the time frame of when this happened is, again, the Adult Survivors Act, which was the vehicle where many of these lawsuits came out, many of these civil lawsuits, came out, there was a finite amount of time for those suits to be filed. The time frame is going to be very, very important. What witnesses come forward, because again, this may not be a situation where DNA may be at play. This may be more of a situation of, hey, yes, I was there and I recall, Cuba Gooding Jr., putting his hands on Lil Rod, or I recall certain aspects. So it's going to be a very witness intensive type of case. And the question is, will the witnesses be willing to come forward?
Another high profile name listed in Lil Rod's lawsuit is Jennifer Lopez.
From the standpoint of the names of the celebrities that were tied to this, the fact that Jennifer Lopez was tied to this back when she was involved in or party to a shooting at a nightclub when she was dating Diddy, and is now alleged to have brought the gun with her to the scene and gave it to Diddy, and that's how the shooting occurred.
Lil Rod's team brings up J-Lo when establishing Diddy's history, writing his quote, Rico enterprise has existed for at least 20 years, dating back to the 1999 nightclub shooting in NYC, when Mr. Combs required his then girlfriend Jennifer Lopez to transport his illegal firearm into the NYC nightclub. The court docs also allege Diddy forced his then artist Shine to assume responsibility for the shooting of several individuals. The shooting happened on December 27th, 1999 at about 2:55 a.m. A fight broke out at a nightclub in New York City between Diddy, Jamal Barrow, who's known as the rapper Shine, and Matthew Allen, who went by the nickname Scar. Guns were drawn and 3 people were shot. No one suffered any life-threatening injuries, and the victims were not involved in the fight. J-Lo and Diddy fled from the scene in a car, but were later arrested and charged. J-Lo's charges were dropped, but the others stuck. Diddy was acquitted, but Shine was sentenced to 10 years in prison. He was released in 2009 and deported back to his home country of Belize. Lil Rod alleges it was Diddy who pulled the trigger, and Shine just took the fall for him. Because of this allegation, experts like former FBI agent Bobby Chacon say investigators could take a second look at the shooting. If there's a civil lawsuit that lays out this major allegation, what would it take to reopen an investigation into something that happened 25 years ago?
Well, it would take a different look at it. So in other words, he was acquitted on state murder charges. Now, federal charges can be different. You can have RICO, you can have continuing criminal enterprise, you can have, so the underlying acts, the predicate acts, what we used to call them when I worked RICO cases, your RICO predicate act could be something like that 1999 case, and you can use it as a predicate act. You can bring it up. When I worked cold cases of this type, sometimes with the passage of time, people aren't as intimidated and they're not as threatened, and they get away from the person who was the threat, and they feel more forthcoming to testify or to give statements in lieu of testimony. But certainly, I think that that case is going to be part of it. In the aftermath of that, they have witnesses that say he bragged about intimidating witnesses, paying off jurors. Certainly, when you have that kind of stuff, if you go back and you find that juror that was paid off, or jurors, multiple, that may have been paid off, certainly that gives you the impetus to kind of come forward and refresh those charges on a federal case. So in the federal cases will be a little different. The charges are a little different, so it's not double jeopardy. And so I think that case that you mentioned, that you cite, I think is certainly one of the ones they're looking to build into a much bigger, to me, maybe a RICO type case.
We also know that federal investigators have spoken to other plaintiffs in civil cases against Diddy to learn more about his personality and what he's like in relationships. That means J-Lo is someone the feds will want to talk to if they haven't already. It also means she could be called to testify against him.
It's possible. It's absolutely possible. If I was the prosecutor handling that case, I absolutely would list her, right? But of course, we need to know whether or not she'd be cooperative. That, of course, changes the strategy when it comes to trial. So you may list someone as a potential witness. That does not mean you're necessarily going to call them. The question is whether or not their testimony is really going to help you. But there is a universe where she could testify against him in terms of, violence, in terms of his interactions with other artists, especially the folks that have been coming forward alleging that he has harmed them in some way or engaged in, human trafficking and sex trafficking. So was she aware of any of that going on? Did she see him with underage girls, or was she present for when some of those videos were taken that Lil Rod included screenshots of those videos in his pleadings? So how much of that did she know? When did she know it? And what actions did she take at the time? Is that part of the reason why they broke up? We don't know. So all of this will remain to be seen. Obviously, the prosecution and law enforcement need to speak with her, get a statement from her, to understand what she knows or what she could be able to testify to, and then make appropriate decisions from there.
But it's not just artists that Lil Rod named either. He specifically mentioned Prince Harry, the Duke of Sussex, in court docs. Reads in part, quote, Mr. Combs was known for throwing the best parties. Affiliation with and or sponsorship of Mr. Combs' sex trafficking parties garner legitimacy and access to celebrities, such as famous athletes, political figures, artists, musicians, and international dignitaries like British royal Prince Harry. Why even name Prince Harry? There's no allegations against him or anything, but why bring him up?
I think it may have been a move to bring more credibility to the filing and say that, basically he being Diddy, was using his fame, fortune, and influence to insulate himself. So he was able to legitimize some of the activities he was doing by having these lavish parties, bringing all these A-list celebrities, but somewhere in a back room or somewhere in another wing, horrible things were happening. So the fact that Prince Harry was there does not necessarily mean he was participating in what was happening. And just because you were at a party doesn't mean you know what's happening in every inch of the house. I mean, if you think about it, if the party's being thrown in a mansion, there are various floors and wings. So it is completely possible that he was there and did not participate. Now, if you had said Prince Andrew, especially as a result of the allegations that came out in connection with the Epstein case, that they were close and that they traveled together, and there was a person that alleged that he had sexually assaulted her while she was underage, that would be a different story. But Prince Harry and the way that it was mentioned seemed to be very, again, just sort of trying to bring legitimacy and talk about these were the people that Diddy surrounded himself by to protect himself.
Prince Harry has no criminal charges or even any accusations of illegal activity, but he could still see the inside of a courtroom in a defamation case.
It's possible that Prince Harry may be able to preserve his reputation. And since it was such a minuscule mention in the greater context of this filing, he may be okay.
Another celebrity mentioned in Lil Rod's lawsuit is Young Miami, who dated Diddy from 2021 to 2023. According to the lawsuit, Young Miami's cousin assaulted Lil Rod during the Thanksgiving holiday in 2022. It reads, quote, Young Miami's cousin burst into the bathroom and began groping Mr. Jones. She started undressing and attempted to straddle him and have sex with him in the presence of Mr. Combs and his staff. Similar to Prince Harry, there are no allegations against Young Miami herself, so there's probably no worry of charges being filed against her. But there could be charges against some of the other people listed in Lil Rod's lawsuit. That's people like Diddy's chief of staff, Christina Coram, who Lil Rod compares to Ghislaine Maxwell, the longtime companion of Jeffrey Epstein.
A lot of people involved
Epstein died by
in
suicide in 2019 when he faced numerous charges of sexual assault over the course of multiple years. Maxwell was charged and found guilty of sex trafficking in relation to her time with Epstein, and she's currently serving a lengthy prison sentence. Lil Rod says Christina Coram ordered sex workers and prostitutes for Mr. Combs and ordered and distributed ecstasy, cocaine, GHB, ketamine, marijuana, and mushrooms to Mr. Combs and his celebrity guests who were present on his rented yacht and his homes in LA, NYC, and Miami. This is referenced in Diddy's indictment too, saying members and associates of the Combs enterprise, including high-ranking supervisors, security staff, household staff, personal assistants, and other Combs business employees, facilitated the freak-offs by, among other things, booking hotel rooms for the freak-offs, stocking the hotel rooms in advance with the required freak-off supplies, including controlled substances, baby oil, lubricants, extra linens, and lighting. Federal prosecutors also allege these associates arranged travel for victims and commercial sex workers, delivered large sums of cash to Diddy to pay these sex workers, and even scheduled the delivery of IV fluids. So according to Melba, it's possible some of these associates are charged too.
None of these cases, when you have these high-profile people that have been using people over years, these cases happen without a handler. R. Kelly had a handler, Epstein had a handler, Weinstein had a handler. Everybody has, in those scenarios of those powerful people, powerful men that are abusing other people, they have someone that does their dirty work. And it's usually not only one person, it's several people who may have different duties. So again, seeing this woman being his handler, being the person to get him drugs, being the person to procure sex workers for him, being the person to basically be on cleanup duty in case of, covering up or silencing people that might want to come forward, that's not unusual, and she is also going to bear the brunt of criminal liability, just like Ghislaine Maxwell did, and basically had to take the entire brunt of the criminal justice system alone because of the fact that Epstein committed suicide and was not able to be held accountable.
And we can't talk about Diddy without mentioning Cassie, the one whose lawsuit blew the lid off Diddy's alleged scheme. She filed civil suit against Diddy last November under the New York Survivor Act, meaning any sexual assault survivor could file suit against their accused predator, and the statute of limitations didn't matter. Cassie's lawsuit was settled just one day after it was filed, but it was still made public, dropping a laundry list of bombshells about Diddy that the public hadn't previously heard. Cassie's lawsuit outlined years of abuse by Diddy, starting when she was just 19 years old, and at the time, he was 37. According to her suit, Diddy was prone to uncontrollable rage and frequently beat Cassie savagely. Cassie alleged Diddy forced her to use drugs and would physically beat her, rape her, or force her to have sex with prostitutes. Then there's the gun allegation that on at least 2 occasions, Diddy demanded Cassie hold his gun in her purse. The lawsuit goes on to say, quote, there was no clear reason why Mr. Combs required her to hold his guns, except to reinforce to his young girlfriend that he was violent, powerful, and dangerous. This echoes a similar allegation made by Lil Rod about Jennifer Lopez's part in the 1999 New York nightclub shooting.
Not only did Jennifer Lopez allegedly bring the gun to the club, now we're also looking at, years later, Cassie coming forward and saying that Diddy forced her to carry a gun with her when they went out to different events. So again, I think that this is more along the lines of, when you look at this from a domestic violence lens, from the standpoint of the abuser being very controlling and demanding certain activities to prove loyalty, to basically put yourself in a bad situation where only he can be the one to save you, basically. So in seeing that, the parallels between J-Lo's experience and Cassie's experience, number one, it brings more credibility to what Cassie said in her pleadings, but also, again, it causes us to look at Jennifer Lopez and be like, some of the comments she made about the end of her relationship to Diddy, in terms of, well, there was infidelity, and she kind of skirted the issue a bit. But when you start to look back at her comments, you start to think, ooh, were you in a domestic violence relationship with Diddy, much like how Cassie ended up in a domestic violence relationship with him?
Cassie kind of broke the record, so to speak, when she made her civil suit back in November. These crazy allegations, we'd never heard anything like it before. And then all of a sudden we have several more people coming forward, and then more once it turns to 2024. So we have multiple plaintiffs who are coming forward alleging very similar things. I'm wondering, without these civil suits, would we even be here right now? Would Diddy even have been arrested and indicted?
I really don't think so. I really don't think so, because Cassie's lawsuit opened the floodgates, and I think it empowered other survivors to come forward and tell their story. And when Little Rod came forward, I think that was just another huge, just a huge moment in this case, because now you have male victims coming forward. And we know statistically male victims of sexual assault generally don't report for a number of reasons, but they many times view it as an attack on their masculinity, and they're very concerned about how they would be viewed publicly. And Little Rod was brave, which I really commend his bravery in standing up and saying, listen, this is what happened to me. And that empowered more and more folks to come forward, including most recently Danity Kane, one of the members of Danity Kane, stating that he had abused her and she had witnessed the abuse he had levied on others. So I think that all of these voices coming forward and saying, listen, there's something here, the feds took notice. And even though they may not have been public about it at first, we knew obviously when they searched the houses, we knew that this was getting very serious, but they were monitoring this the minute that Cassie filed her lawsuit. And when they read those allegations, I can assure you that investigation started immediately. And then as more and more survivors came forward, again, the feds would be going and interviewing each of those people, seeing what evidence they have. So for instance, do they have maybe some cell phone footage, or can they substantiate what occurred to them in other ways, maybe follow text messages, emails? All of these things are aspects that the feds are able to use to now bring in their case in chief against P. Diddy.
Months ago, we reported that Cassie was working with federal investigators in the case against Diddy. We can't know for sure whether she testified in the grand jury hearing that would ultimately indict Diddy, but it's likely at least some of his accusers did.
I do believe that a number of the survivors would have testified. I don't think that they would have brought all of them because of the fact that, number one, you want to testifying is traumatizing, especially when you're talking about the most awful day likely of your life and some very degrading things that happen to you. And you have to tell that to a bunch of people you don't know. So you have to be very cautious in when and how you bring your victims, your survivors to testify, and think about that in terms of your strategy. Because again, you may want to save some of the survivors for the actual trial if this does go to trial, and maybe just pick one or two that make the point, right? And then you can fill it in with more evidence as the trial proceeds. But you don't necessarily have to show all of your evidence to the grand jury. You just pick the strongest pieces of evidence so that, again, you're not burning your survivors out before they get to the point of trial unnecessarily. Obviously, they do have to testify and tell their story so that the jury has something to deliberate on. But at the same token, you don't want to push them too much because, again, that trauma is very real. And even if they are getting assistance through counseling or something along those lines, it's still a lot to have to talk about it, especially in such a huge media frenzy around it, and so many people weighing in, and whether it be social media or other celebrities or things like that. So those are some of the things I think the assistant U.S. attorney would have been considering when deciding who should be brought in front of the grand jury to testify.
And when it comes time for trial, we could expect to hear from Cassie or other accusers in federal court. You're bringing up a really good point because, as you said, this is probably one of the darkest times of these survivors' lives, and they have to come forward with these serious allegations and relive the trauma that I'm sure they've been working to overcome. It's really tough, but we're assuming that a lot of them are going to testify at the trial, whenever that may be, and there are several accusers that have to go through and do all of that. What would it look like at the trial then?
At the trial, now the key is the U.S. Attorney's Office has to make sure that they're not going too far afield with bad character evidence. We saw how that kind of backfired in the Harvey Weinstein case, where, as well as the Bill Cosby case, where other instances were brought in that were maybe not as close in time, or more so not really enlightening the jury about what happened in the charges that were in the indictment, but more so he's just a really bad, horrible, predatory person. That may be the truth. However, when it comes to proving the charges at hand, you have to be very focused on making sure the jury understands what happened during the timeframes that are specified in the indictment. And so if some of these other survivors, let's say something happened 10 years ago, that might be too far in time for them to be able to testify. But if we're talking about an instance of something that happened last year, for instance, that might be closer in time to allow them to be able to testify. And again, if they have specific knowledge about certain aspects of the indictment, of course, they'll be brought to testify. But again, you have to be very cautious because you want to be able to preserve, if you're able to get a conviction, you want to be able to preserve it on appeal by not making these types of errors.
After his indictment this week, Diddy pleaded not guilty to all charges and was denied bond twice. A statement from his legal team reads, quote, Sean Diddy Combs is a music icon, self-made entrepreneur, loving family man, and proven philanthropist who has spent the last 30 years building an empire, adoring his children, and working to uplift the Black community. He is an imperfect person, but is not criminal. To his credit, Mr. Combs has been
You're supposed to say that you're his attorney.
And he voluntarily relocated to New York last week in anticipation of these charges. Please reserve your judgment until you have all the facts. These are the acts of an innocent man with nothing to hide, and he looks forward to clearing his name in court. More updates are sure to come in the case of United States versus Sean Diddy.
Whatever. I don't hear all that crap. I don't want to hear what them people have to say on that part. Talking about his attorney, I don't want to hear that. We're gonna see what is gonna happen, what's going on with this case when he goes to court, period. I'll save the other video, but there's another video, but it's gonna be a long one, so I'll just wait for that one for tomorrow. All right, you guys, I want to just share a song that somebody made for me. And I appreciate y'all coming through.
From the start, don't play dumb, acting like you didn't see where I'm from. But every move I made, I was meant to shine. You can try to act blind, but you saw the signs. I rose from the dirt, stayed on my grind. Now they're looking at me like, damn, she divine. You knew I was the one, don't pretend. Play stupid, but you felt it in the end. I see the way you looking now, switching sides. But you can't erase the truth, don't even try. You knew I had it, you knew I'd fly. Now you gotta watch me as I touch the sky. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. Every word I spoke, it hit deep. They acted like they didn't see the queen beneath. But I stayed focused, never let it slide. I kept pushing while they tried to hide. Now they trying to get close, wanna claim me. But where was the love when they couldn't see? I was destined to rise, you always knew. But you kept it low, now look at my view. I see the way you looking now, switching sides. But you can't erase the truth, don't even try. You knew I had it, you knew I'd fly. Now you gotta watch me as I touch the sky. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. They wanna act like it's all a surprise, but you saw the fire burning in my eyes. Don't act shocked, don't fake the vibe. You knew I was coming for my prize. Now I'm standing at the top looking down. You can't deny it, I wear the crown. All the fake love, it's come around. But you knew I'd take over this town. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. You knew it from the start, don't play dumb, acting like you didn't see where I'm from. But every move I made, I was meant to shine. You can try to act blind, but you saw the signs. I rose from the dirt, stayed on my grind. Now they looking at me like, damn, she divine. You knew I was the one, don't pretend. Played stupid, but you felt it in the end. I see the way you looking now, switching sides. But you can't erase the truth, don't even try. You knew I had it, you knew I'd fly. Now you gotta watch me as I touch the sky. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. Every word I spoke, it hit deep. They acted like they didn't see the queen beneath. But I stayed focused, never let it slide. I kept pushing while they tried to hide. Now they trying to get close, wanna claim me. But where was the love when they couldn't see. I was destined to rise, you always knew, but you kept it low. Now look at my view. I see the way you looking now, switching sides, but you can't erase the truth, don't even try. You knew I had it, you knew I'd fly. Now you gotta watch me as I touch the sky. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. They wanna act like it's all a surprise, but you saw the fire burning in my eyes. Don't act shocked, don't fake the vibe. You knew I was coming for my prize. Now I'm standing at the top looking down. You can't deny it, I wear the crown. All the fake love, it's come around, but you knew I'd take over this town. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You felt the power, but you stayed mute. Now it's too late, I made my move. I'm the chosen one, you knew the truth. You knew it from the start, don't play dumb. Acting like you didn't see where I'm from. But every move I made, I was meant to shine. You can try to act blind, but you saw the signs. I rose from the dirt, stayed on my grind. Now they looking at me like, damn, she divine. You knew I was the one, don't pretend.
Thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you like it. Yeah, this sucker's got some beat to it. I'll be dancing while y'all sitting there listening to it. So that's just the second time I let y'all hear it. So that's going to be one of my outro songs. All right. So thank you for coming. I appreciate y'all. Y'all have a great day. Thank you.
Pretend, play stupid, but you felt it in the end. I see the way you looking now, switching sides, but you can't erase the truth, don't even try. You knew I had it, you knew I'd fly. Now you gotta watch me as I touch the sky. You knew, don't act brand new. You saw the vision, you felt it too. Played stupid, now you see it's true. I'm the chosen one, I always flew. You knew, don't act brand new. You knew, don't act brand new. saw the vision, you felt it too. Plates